Welcome back to today's video, and today I'm going to tell you how, as a teacher, I've not had to sit and mark a class set of books for close to 2 years now, and it's something that has completely changed my life as a teacher. It's changed the way I can plan my work around my family. It's changed my workload commitment massively. It's just really improved the quality of my role as a teacher, what I can do to help the children, and that is something called live feedback. Now, this is something my school introduced about 2 years ago, and like I said at the start, it has been absolutely game-changing for me as a teacher. It's meant that I've not had to once sit after school and mark a whole set of books since we introduced it, really. It did take a little while to get used to it and a little while to get started, but now we've been doing it for a couple of years and I feel confident and I can talk about why it is so amazing and what it really is. So a little while ago, they brought out some research where they were showing that actually the most important and the most useful bit of assessment children have and the feedback they get is when you give that feedback and you assess their work as they are doing it. So not after the lesson, not going back to the next day, but actually during the lesson while they're doing their work. Now, I don't know if you have recognized this when you're teaching. When you have marked a set of books and you give them back the next day to say, go have a look through your work, see how you did, are there any corrections to make? Often over the course of a day, children will have forgotten. The research showed that over the course of half an hour, children forget 50% of what they have learned. And over the course of 24 hours, I think that gets up to close to 70 or 80%. So the next day when you come back to look at the work they've done, that has almost completely disappeared from their minds. They've forgotten what they've done, they've forgotten how to do it, unless it's something they've been doing for weeks or days at a time, again and again, and coming back and back to it. So doing that live feedback there and then means you can prevent misconceptions, you can give them the feedback they need to help improve the work, they can make sure they're improving it straight away rather than the next day. It just works so much better. So if there's a child that's doing, for instance, column addition and they're forgetting to carry when they have an answer that's more than 10 in each column, if you don't spot what they're doing during the lesson, you don't mark their work till after the lesson, then they will do those questions wrong all lesson. And you'll end up with a book or a page full of maths questions where you'll just mark them all as wrong. The next day the child will get that book and they might be demoralized, they might feel like they don't know what they're doing, they might feel rubbish about what they're doing. And no matter what you can do to help them at that point, they've had a whole lesson or a whole day's work where their misconception has been developed into their brain and they are now thinking that's the way to do it, and you have to then unpick that and show them how to do it again. Whereas if you're marking work in lessons and doing live feedback, then as you go around you can spot the mistakes that are going on and you can correct them there and then, so they don't have that long period of time where that misconception settles in their brain and you then have to unpick it. It also is brilliant because if you spot a few children doing the same mistake, then I do this all the time in a lesson. When you see the mistake happening, then you can say, right, everyone stop, come back together, and you go over the mistake on the board in front of all the children. And it doesn't mean you're naming and shaming them. You would never, point out a child that's saying something's going wrong, but you just say you've seen a few different children doing this same mistake. Let's go through it together, work out where it's going wrong, and then fix it there and then. And again, it means you're not putting it on the spot and no one feels down the next day when they are doing the wrong thing for that long period of time. It all gets fixed straight away. It also means there's no lost learning time in the lesson, because when you do give work back the next day, having marked it at night, and you say, right, we're gonna have 5 minutes to go over your corrections, then I know as a teacher when we used to do that, that was always a time where it would be difficult to make sure everyone was engaged in that part of the lesson and interested, because some children don't want to go back and do their corrections. They want to move on and get on with the next bit of learning. So if you can do corrections at the time, children are much more interested to fix stuff when they know they've got it wrong there and then. And they're like, oh no, I can't believe I did that, and they'll go back and fix it straight away. The next day, they want to move on and do the next lesson. They don't want to be looking back at what they've done before. So again, it's another example why live feedback really works. Now, there's a good few reasons why this is brilliant for the children, why live feedback works for the class as a whole and it is better for them. As I said, they are learning better, they are understanding their mistakes better, they're generally making better progress. However, it also is a much better thing for teachers. So one of the things about teaching is you're contracted to work for maybe 6 to 7 hours a day, something like 8:30 till 3:30 or 9 till 3, and you work far more hours than that. You get to school for 7:30, might leave at 4 or 5 o'clock. That is part of teaching and it's accepted, and it's just what happens, and that's totally okay. And I knew that when I came into teaching, and I still accept it now. But by doing this live feedback and not having piles of books to mark after school, you can do two things. First of all, you do not work as much after school, so that means you're getting home earlier to your family, you're getting to go and do what you enjoy more, your mental health's better, your work-life balance is better, that kind of thing. That you really can focus on yourself and having your life outside of school as well as your life inside of school on the job. The other thing is the time you do have, you can use in a much more creative and better way. So rather than spending hours just going over work that's already been done, you can look ahead and plan the next lesson and create new ideas and creative ways to teach the children and come up with some really inventive creative lessons, because all of a sudden you've got these hours where you used to just spend sat ticking work, crossing work, dotting work, writing comments. Now that's all done inside your teaching time. So the time outside, before school, after school, you can look at your assessment, you can decide which children need which interventions, you can look at how to make your lesson more exciting, more creative, more inventive. You suddenly get all this time as a teacher. You can look at your displays, look at keeping your classroom tidy. The kind of jobs where you want to get them done, but they normally would fall down the list and they might not be something that you can do all the time because you've got to get your marking done, because you've got to get your planning done as well as your marking. There's things you have to do as a teacher and the things you want to do as a teacher. When marking goes, generally, and it was the case for me, marking is something that I had to do, but it wasn't something I necessarily enjoyed. All of a sudden, the marking is done in the lesson and you've got all this time to do the bits you enjoy as a teacher. You can plan trips, you can look at inventive days. We've got days coming up where we've got, like, we had just had a maths day, which you might have seen in my week in the life video, where we had a numbers day and we did maths pretty much all day, and I got to do some stuff in that day that I would never normally do because I could think about it and think ahead about what was coming up. So your work-life balance for yourself as a teacher also massively improved, and you can really put time in for the types of things that you want to do as a teacher and that you want to do outside of school, not necessarily just you as a teacher. Because remember, guys, and I always talk about this, your mental health is so important. Your life is not teaching. You need to remember that there's a life outside of school. There's things you can do to enjoy yourself and go and see family, friends, exercise, party, whatever it is you want to go and do it and go and enjoy it. And live feedback is something that really helps work-life balance, so hopefully you can go and enjoy that stuff too. Some other areas where this live feedback will really help the children is that you can give them targets to work on in class. So again, rather than coming back to the next lesson, if a child is making a mistake, you can give them a target there and then say, okay, go through the next 5 questions, really make sure you are focusing on getting your decimal points lined up in a column addition, or making sure you're writing your columns at the top of the columns so you're not getting the numbers mixed up in which column they should go in. Various different things you can do. Making sure that they remember the method for 2-digit column multiplication. My class have just cracked that and it's made me really happy because they've been working really hard at it. So they've just done really well at it. And it's just those types of things where you can give targets in the lesson as you see children doing the work, rather than just sitting there watching them work, waiting to mark it after the lesson. Get it done in the lesson. Give them feedback while they're doing it, and then they don't make mistakes throughout an entire lesson. They'll only make a few and you can correct them there and then. By doing that, you also get a really good understanding of where your class is for each individual lesson. As you're walking around the classroom and you can see the children's work and you're marking it, you know straight away, are there some big misconceptions that you need to fix? Are there just a few children making a few small mistakes? Is it something that you need to come back to in the next lesson and teach again because something's gone wrong? Is it something you need to actually stop everyone and say, one set, let's go back and have a look at this again? Those types of things, they can be so important for stopping misconceptions starting to develop in your class. And again, if you're not marking your work during the lessons, you won't know what's there. You won't know what the children are thinking. So get the marking done in the lesson, go around and see how they're doing, see what misconceptions are there and how you can fix them straight away so they're not, taking seed in the children's brains. And because it's much harder to unpick a misconception and to go back over it and change a child's mind when they think they've been taught something and they think they've got it, and then it's just actually, if not, we need to now change that again. If they learn it right the first time, it's much easier. So please let me know what your school does for marking, because it's not something that I've seen any other school do before, and I'm so happy my school introduced it. Our SLT, so our senior leadership team, and our head teacher, executive head teacher, they are so focused on reducing teacher workload and making sure we can work efficiently in time that is sensible, because they know how hard it can be as a teacher to prevent burnout and just feel like you're working all the time. So they've done an absolutely amazing job, and I am really appreciative of what they do for us. But it's also something that I'd like some other schools to adopt, because I know there's some schools out there that I've heard about from other teachers talking online to them where the workload is just unmanageable, and this is something that could do really well at reducing that workload and kind of bring it to a more manageable level for them. So please let me know in the comments down below what your school does for marking, and if you think this is something your school could adopt, then maybe ask about it. See if you can look at the research, look at why people do live feedback, and maybe your school could adopt it too. And if not, then let me know why, because I'd love to know why some schools don't do this and why they think actually marking after lesson is a better approach. Because again, for me, I don't believe it is, but I'm always open to new ideas and I'd love to hear from you as well. So I hope you're having a lovely week wherever you are, whatever level you're teaching at the minute. If you're training to become a teacher, then please do. I love the job, I love the role, it's absolutely brilliant, and hopefully you guys will too. As always, I will see you very soon.